Hello, everybody. My name is Anthony Jones, and I'm going to talk about how to study as a creative artist effectively. And this video is going to be really short and really to the point. A lot of people ask me constantly, how do I go about studying? What do I know about studying? And what is it that they can do to improve their work and how they can get better faster? And a lot of times we always say work hard, work really hard. And I have articles actually specifically talking about these types of things and things that you can do to improve yourself as an artist. But one thing I think I need to really talk about is the way you think about studying. And that's what I'm going to be doing today. And in this video, this short video. So one thing that I think you should understand is, let's look at the definition of study. The devotion of time and attention to acquiring knowledge on an academic subject, especially by means of books, or a detailed investigation and analysis of a subject or situation. So when you read these descriptions, this is what I think study is. I mean, the actual definition really kind of gets to the point. It's where you really devote a lot of time and attention to acquiring knowledge. On an academic level, that can be different. This could be anything. It could be academic, it could be, artistic, creative, whatever. You can replace those words, those last parts, because that's just the actual thing that you're studying, right? And a detailed investigation and analysis of a subject or situation is, again, more of the same. It's just a reiterance of that. What I think ends up happening, though, is people tend to do this instead of studying, which is copying, which is a thing made to be similar or identical to another. A single specimen of a particular book, record, or other publication of issue, that's just like a copy. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But the first part definitely does, right? And so we go back to study. And when I mean devotion of time and attention to acquiring, this is where I'm really going to be hitting home. And this is where I think people do not do. So when they say they study, I study all the time. I work all day. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I say, maybe you're not studying. Maybe you're copying. And copying is definitely a way to get better, but it's not the alternative that I think is most effective. And here's a good example. So I made a replication. The copy is not really a copy. It's kind of photoshopped. But I just try to bring back the home. But the point is that this is what I tend to see. I see, hey, look here, let me show you my study. And you'll see the original piece of painting, which is by Sargent. And then you see, which I think that's actually a replication, which is ironic, right? But anyways, my point is that the one on the right is what you would see from somebody who's just starting out, or even professionals. Us professionals like to do copies because it's fun and it's challenging and it is hard on its own. I'm not trying to say if you copy that you aren't acquiring any level of skill, but you're not acquiring the skill that I think you're being misled, is what I'm trying to get at. And so when you see a copy, that's what it is. It's really a copy. I just took these pixels and colors and brought it to the next one. That's all I've done here. And if you recognize this, then you can start to analyze your own self and your own ability of what you're doing when you're actually studying. And this, to me, is the difference. Here's a study. So you have the original on the side, and then we have a copy, but then we also have breakdowns of the color swatches matched to the value swatch. We have a black and white analysis. We have a close-up of the face. We start doing facial shape, like recognition type stuff. We find the planes of the face on the bottom left there. And on the right, we do a little bit more pixelization so we can get a more blurred version of the colors that are being here. And what we're trying to do is try to learn. We're acquiring information, we're acquiring knowledge. We're saying, what kind of values does Sargent use often? How does that play? What can I see from here? You take notes all about the shapes, color, mostly desaturated. He uses limited palettes. This is information that is just on the surface. This is what you get on the surface of a study, and you can just keep doing this. With one painting, you can get tremendous amounts of knowledge from one painting, from one of these dead artists or these old artists or even the new ones that are around today. You can study their work by just really looking at it, and really tracing it, drawing shapes around it, drawing the negative shapes, taking the color guessing, like, can I guess that color and value just with my eyes? And if I am wrong, you're lucky you have Photoshop, because you can check your work. And you just keep doing this. You just keep working at it, and you keep really studying. And you can just have one piece of work. And what's great is that you can spend hours not actually having one painting done at all. You might not even have a copy of the painting at the end. You might just have a bunch of sketches, a bunch of loose paints here and there that are not representative at all as a replication of the work, because you're not trying to make a replication, you're trying to learn from them. And that's, I think, makes a study. And if you're doing this, then you're actually studying. Then the next point is like, are you doing enough of it, right? And so then when you start to look at stuff like this hopefully gives you a little bit more insight. Because if you were to think about it in professional sports, like here's like someone lifting a lot of weight and they're achieving a lot. You see this, you're like, hey, I can do that. But you wouldn't say that, right? You would be more like, well, that's, you know, it's really hard. I mean, but this is what happens when you try to do a copy and then try to go paint for yourself with no real information maintained at the end. You know, you just will fail, and you'll discourage yourself all the time for no reason, because you're basing your abilities off of a master who has spent years training, like, you know, some of them for decades, you know, more than a few decades sometimes. And if you compare yourself to the final works of these masters and your favorite artists and these great artists, yeah, you're gonna fail often, and you're gonna fall really hard. But if you understand that there's a level where you can pay attention to it, like you could say, well, you know, I'm gonna start small. I'm gonna start, you know, doing jumping jacks, doing, you know, I don't know what those are called, wall, legs, stuff, do push-ups, do sit-ups, do, you know, inclines and all this kind of stuff, working out, you know, doing chin-ups, single leg squats. You start leveling up your ability. Eventually you can be on the guy on the left, if that's what you want to be, right? You can achieve that ability, but you have to train. I like to compare things to sports, because no one will ever complain that when you see a professional athlete be really good at the sport, no one will ever say truthfully that it's a talent, because people know that these guys, these athletes, train really hard. And for whatever reason, let's go back a few steps, you're playing the game here, but you're not training, right? And for whatever reason, when people are in the creative arts, they think that training is more like this, when training is really more like this. And it's just like it is in physical sports. It's very similar. Like, you don't necessarily do the power lifts to train. I mean, you definitely do parts of that, but you do all the other stuff that strengthen all your muscles, everything, as a unison, instead of just some muscles. You know, you want to become strong at everything. And so training is where I think it becomes, and this is where I go into kind of a method that I've talked about in the past in an article, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper in this video, which I call ASAP. Because everybody's in a hurry, so I thought this was very fun to work with. And so ASAP, I want to get fast, ASAP. And the reality and the irony of this is this isn't gonna get you good tomorrow. It's gonna get you good consistently, is probably a better way of thinking about it, which is assessing the issue. Like, what am I bad at? Am I bad at forms? Am I bad at lighting? Am I bad at colors? Whatever that may be. Then specify, then study. So once you say, okay, I'm bad at colors, what specifically about the colors am I doing poorly in? So because there's a lot of stuff that we're basically lessening the broad scope of things that we can work on, and apply what you learn. Okay, so once you've assessed the problem, then specify the thing that you want to study. You study hardcore, and then you apply what you learn. That means you do it without looking, or you just try to draw without actually using reference or your studies next to you. So can I draw or do this, achieve this thing that I was studying without looking? Because then you really know what you've learned something. You've really achieved something new. And then you practice it. This is where copying or repetition starts to, this is where it comes into play. Once you've acquired knowledge, once you've understood, or you've trained yourself into a new state of habits, then you practice those habits, and you just keep practicing, you keep practicing, you keep practicing. And then once it's all said and done, you repeat it. You do it all over again. Okay? And so here's an example, just a visual example of what I mean. So we have on the left is like, okay, I'm bad at anatomy. And so when people think anatomy, oh man, there's so much to tackle. So yes, there is. Well, so let's start with one. I want to study arms. So then you break down, we specify the things that we want to study, which are the arms. And then I say, okay, now I have arms, that's what I want to be better at. I'm going to focus mostly on the deltoid and like bicep connection, like right around that area. But if I learn anything new, I'll take note. And you can see on the bottom of the page towards the right, you can see me studying, and I'm talking, hey, it gets fatter towards the bottom. There's a little dip in the shape of the deltoid. And I actually noticed something that I didn't, because as I was doing this study, I noticed something subtly different about what was going on in the middle of the deltoid I never knew before, that actually does get kind of fatter, and it looks kind of like a miniature bicep, or something that you would find on the quadricep, which was really cool. And now it became something that I can actually start using and utilizing in my own artwork. And that's what we see on the right, is me studying and practicing that. And I actually put a little indication of where the pecs actually would overlap the bicep, because I noticed on the top that there is a really great diagram of how that's separated that I've never noticed before. And so what I'm trying to get at is, now I've done this study, and so guess what I do next? Repeat, right? After I've done all the study, I train and I practice and practice and practice, and then I repeat. I say, okay, let me go back again. Let me do the same thing. Maybe use different reference, different images, different things. It doesn't have to be the same reference. Now, these are examples of just a few pieces of references, and you can definitely take a lot of information out of one or two pieces of references, but you can also get a lot out of a lot of references. But, you know, pace yourself and try not to overwhelm yourself with a lot of information overload. Try to learn a few things at a time, and with that, you will definitely learn and you will definitely progress. I feel like everybody, when they try to study or they're trying to work, they get discouraged immediately, because when they're starting to quote unquote study, they get frustrated because there's so much to learn, and they can't retain I'm trying to learn 7 different muscles and I can't remember one. Or just try to learn 2 muscles, and then that's it. Just learn those 2 muscles and then move on to the next set. And then the next set, and take your time. Maybe spend a couple days trying to learn just 2 muscles and how they work, how they connect. Then learn the next chain of muscles. Spend a couple days on that. Maybe a week if you have to. You know, spend a few times here and there until you have achieved, you know, an ability that you can totally latch onto. And once that happens, you will see growth, slowly but surely, consistently. And I think that's what people really care about, is, can I become better faster? So let's go ahead and repeat. Let's go through all this thing again, because like I said, you got to repeat everything. So study, read the definition, look it up, look at people actually studying. Try to remember what you did when you were a kid, when you were studying, and the things that made you remember things. Remember, copying is not studying, but it's not a bad thing to do. It helps, definitely. It could be a part of studying, but it's definitely not the act of studying. Have an idea of what happens when you do a copy of a painting, what you may retain from that. That you could do a study about how to copy, how to maintain information as you do that. But you're not truthfully studying. This is what it looks like, right? When you're really writing down notes, and potentially don't even have a drawing at the end. You're not trying to draw right now. You're trying to train. You're trying to learn. And remember, achieving a huge amount of information might be too hard, and you will fail, and it'll be very discouraging. And discouragement is a good lead into procrastination, which is not what you want to do. You got to remember, even athletes trained, even the greatest painters had an origin. You know, nobody starts off awesome in the beginning. Everybody trains. I've never met an artist who has not. And this is some things you can do. Assess the issue, specify, then study, apply what you learn, and practice. And once you have that down, you repeat it, and you do it again. And then here's a visual representation of that, and hopefully this will help you guys out. And with that, I hope you guys learned a little bit today on how you guys can study, how you guys can become better artists, and, you know, stop complaining that you don't know why you're getting any better. You should know why you're not getting any better. You're the one that holds the truth of what you're really doing with your days. So be truthful to yourself. No one cares about your excuses, especially if there's no result, right? So with that, I hope you guys really push yourselves, and I hope everybody pumps out awesome studies, and from those studies, awesome artwork. See you guys next time.